And here we go. Sup? Yeah, what's going on? It's a beautiful day out. Right now it is. Not sure if it's gonna rain. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But yeah, hope everyone is doing well. There's needless to say, there's plenty of shit going on that is of grave concern. But in the meantime, I will relax. I made, well, you can't really see it. I guess I didn't really show it well, but I made some more coffee. The first cup, I started stream. The first cup I made had grounds in it, so I had to like make it again. So yeah, um, it is what it is. Um, anyway, a lot of, as I mentioned, stuff that is happening. Um, I want to settle in first though before we get too into the weeds on it. Oh boy. Yeah, so I mentioned this last week. I guess I'll mention it again, but um today will be the last day that I am streaming for until the 16th, I think. Because basically I'm going to be out of town next week, and I'm also going to be just going on vacation, taking a break from everything. And hopefully I can mentally recharge from all the shit going on. Because there's a lot of fucking bad news after bad news happen. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna be. This will be the last stream for a while, but no. Hopefully nothing too crazy happens while I'm gone, but that probably won't be the case. Ah, man. Oh yeah, dude. I have been not covering the Jan 6 trials that much. Um, I'll probably maybe do like a segment once all the trials are completed, because like it seems like it's kind of important, right? The end of our democracy and all that. And I just burned my tongue, which is great. But yeah, the Jan 6 stuff has been crazy. If you haven't been paying attention, um, I highly recommend it just because there's a lot of revelations that are happening with that. I don't know. I'll probably go over something maybe once it's all done, and then I'll share my opinion. But I can't really go over every single thing. I think they're like 2 hours long every like each session maybe. I don't know. Boy, yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any lighthearted shit to this to share. Oh yeah, dude. Hold on. I saw this too. This isn't gonna be like one of the segments, but I saw this video about the Proud Boys. Close the door. How many kids are in here? How many kids are in here? Yeah, so apparently the Proud Boys, these are alleged Proud Boys that are trying to get into um, a bar because there's a drag show taking place. And the drag show wasn't targeted towards children specifically, but it was one of those like for all ages sort of thing. But you did hear in the video, I believe one of those guys was like, how many kids was in there? So you know, that's what's on their mind. Yeah, dude, crazy shit. There seems to be a conceited effort recently amongst the Proud Boys, especially for right-wing militias or extremists trying to find drag shows, locate them, and disrupt them and intimidate the, you know, the drag queens themselves and the teachers or whoever else facilitating the event. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Fucking wild. Oh yeah, this is another thing. I guess we're gonna go like back to back to back with the insanity here. We got Lauren Boebert with the very patriotic, uh, you know, arguments about the church. The church is supposed to direct the government. Is one of the quotes here.
The reason we had so many overreaching regulations in our nation is because the church complied. The church is supposed to direct the government. The government is not supposed to direct the church. That is not how our founding fathers intended it. And I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk that's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter, and it means nothing like what they say it does.
And she doesn't go on to explain what it was actually meant to address. Now, keep in mind, the letter that she is referring to is a letter that was written by Thomas Jefferson in 1802 to the Danbury Baptist, I believe. Basically, it was outlining the argument or the justification, rather, for the Establishment Clause in the Constitution. So basically, the government cannot establish a religion which extends to various different forms of policy not being implemented. So, like, the government on public property, because it's funded through public tax dollars, can't, like, put the 10 Commandments on there. It can't have, like, the nativity scene, maybe. So, like, that's what we're referring to in terms of, like, the separation of church and state, which was outlined through Thomas Jefferson, you know, back in the day. But it's interesting because, like, she says it's not in the Constitution, but the separation of church and state, the Establishment Clause, is within that, is in the Constitution. So I feel like this just goes to show, and we already knew this, but it just goes to show that, like, conservatives are going to be willing to disregard the Constitution when it's inconvenient to them. And then apply a very rigid adherence to how the founding fathers wanted it to be interpreted, so an originalist sort of frame of analysis when it benefits them. Like, they'll say, like, for abortion, they'll defer to the fact that abortion isn't, like, mentioned in the Constitution, although, and completely disregarding, by the way, that there was an implied privacy outlined within it. Because it's vague and all that, you can really interpret it however you want, but it's just, keep in mind that people like Lauren Boebert will will pick and choose when to apply the Constitution argument, because she said here, that, like, you know, that it's there is no separation of church and state basically, and but then again, they'll also apply again that very originalist frame of analysis when it comes to other shit like abortion. So, yeah, you know, it's just a matter of like, you know, being partisan, I guess. This is really theocratic language too, in an ostensibly secular nation, right? Because the United States is secular, given the fact that they don't establish a religion. Mm. But again, this is an elected Republican official, right? She's fucking crazy, but she has more power than I do directly, right? Which is frightening to say the least. Unfortunately, we're going to probably see an increase, if we haven't already, but like we're going to see even more open and honest rhetoric among evangelical Christian Republicans to use religion in order to justify employing authoritarian policies. Because like in Texas, they're trying to the Texas governor who is trying to has made it clear. Maybe it was the Texas governor or it was the attorney general. I don't remember, but basically, they were trying to. They basically said like that they're open and willing to implement and enforce rather anti-sodomy laws. Now, you know, this is of course predicated on the notion that homosexuality is unnatural and it is a perversion of nature and all this other shit. But that specifically is extrapolated from religiosity and the fact that supposedly, um, you know, being gay or whatever and engaging in homosexual behavior is a very unreligious and whatever arguments that Christians will throw out, but that certainly plays a role in them implementing anti-sodomy laws. And I mean, look, they're basically just trying to like outlaw what being gay is what is happening. And they do want every gay person to die. They would cackle at the sight of a gay person being shot in the back of the head. These people are insane, psychopaths, and unfortunately, they have power. You know, they have the ability to, I mean, there's still anti-sodomy laws on the books, like in these states, some of these states. I mean, it's just a matter of it not being enacted upon, I guess, just by the fact that uh, the ruling, I believe it was Lawrence, that makes it unconstitutional to enforce those laws. But anyway, yeah, the broader point there was just basically that Republicans will employ, religion as a means of dictating, what laws should and shouldn't be passed. But yeah, I mean, like Lauren Boebert kind of like explicitly says it, right? I mean, this is as honest as you can get with a Republican or Christian Republican, certainly. They believe the church should be more powerful and direct the government and the people. So, yeah, crazy times we live in, right? Crazy times. Oh boy. I guess with that being said, we can get into the first thing here. I'm gonna need the coffee for it. Okay, so I think we all understand at this point that Republicans just want the world to end. And that's not an exaggeration. I truly believe that they do want, because it is part of like, the religion of Christians or Protestants, that the rapture, they believe in the end times are near, and this also contributes to their perspective on Israel, and like they really do believe that the end times are nearing, and they're crazy. They are a death cult. They function very similar, if not identical, to a death cult. And the manifestation or the consequence of such ideology is as follows. Supreme Court ruled the EPA can what they can and can't do. Actually, I'll read this and then I'll provide some commentary. So on Thursday, ruling by the Supreme Court significantly curtailed the Environmental Protection Agency's power to restrict emissions from power plants under a 2014 rule, but the agency still retains other tools to curb emissions for now. In the 6-3 ruling in West Virginia versus the EPA, the court's conservative majority found that the EPA lacked the authority to enforce an Obama-era power plant rule without specific congressional approval. I'll address this momentarily. Although the ruling disallows that specific approach without lawmakers signing off, the agency still has its broader authority to regulate power plant outputs to cut emissions under the Clean Air Act. The problem, from the point of view of those who want the EPA to cut emissions, is that in most cases they are less efficient and more expensive in a political and regulatory environment where every second counts. Okay. Thursday's ruling specifically applies to the EPA's 2015 Clean Power Plan, which had a goal of so-called generation shifting or accelerating the shift from coal-fire-powered to renewable energy and natural gas. That's a significant constraint because it was the EPA's first choice for the reason. In the wake of the ruling, the EPA has many of the same arrows in its quiver as before to address pollutants from power plants, but, quote, the tools the EPA has are probably inadequate, end quote, said Cardozo School of Law professor Michael Hertz. One alternative to generation shifting is co-firing, or the combustion of two kinds of fuel at the same time, which can create a more environmentally friendly product for the existing plant. Okay. So here's the deal on this. The part here where it says without specific congressional approval. So what this means, at least as far as I understand, is that the EPA, if they want to enforce some form of authority regarding curbing emissions for specifically power plants, then they would need to go through Congress, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, because the people in Congress aren't experts, as far as I'm concerned, on environmental, like environmentalism, environmental science. So you would figure that some form of autonomy or deferring to experts and to their timelines to get shit done and enforced would be the default obvious assumption, right? I mean, these are people who are skilled and have the expertise necessary to address, some of the things that power plants are going to be doing, right? So the fact that this must go through Congress provides an unnecessary, obstacle for the EPA. And unfortunately, and I'm pretty sure many of you know this, but a lot of people in Congress are corrupt. A lot of people in Congress, a lot of them are Republicans. A lot of them don't even believe climate change is real. A lot of them are fundamentally against the idea or even the concept of regulation or environmental regulation. And a large reason for that is because of the fossil fuel industry. The fact that they receive a lot of funding through the fossil fuel industry, and that certainly contributes to their opinions. So what does this mean moving forward? Well, what it means is that it is going to be more difficult for the EPA to enforce certain regulations. And the EPA is designed to specifically protect, obviously, the environment, but what that specifically entails is protecting the citizens. Because keep in mind, if you have power plants that are violating certain regulations and are, for example, dumping pollutants within a nearby river source for a city or a community or whoever are polluting the air in greater quantities than before, then what that does is it's not even just ecological damage. It's also damaging to the citizens' health and the workers there, like living there. This will increase the mortality rate within the specific jurisdictions that these power plants or whoever are operating under, and consequently, it's going to result in a increase in prices for healthcare costs, and people are going to be spending more money on that shit. You know, premiums are going to increase because there's more people needing the services of healthcare. And there's going to be less money for people to use, you know, whether it be to invest in the economy or spend or what have you. And overall, it's just a net negative for not just the environment, for everyone. For, you know, like there's less jobs, there's worse health. I mean, like this is a devastating blow, to say the least. And even like even if you're under like this, you know, even if you're like a capitalist and like a very like, you know, laissez-faire sort of person, there are some things where being fundamentally against like, you know, or like factories or whatever, if you're fundamentally against like regulation, it even with this, like you can't like get around it because being like you can't just let companies pollute the air unfettered. You can't just let companies dump shit into rivers unfettered. This damages not it does, and again, it doesn't even just damage the environment. It like harms people's health, increases premiums on healthcare. It decreases jobs. I mean, this is as bad. I mean, like this is like a no fucking brainer. Like the fact that this is even something that people like seem to want to die on a hill for is crazy. Even if you're like a laissez-faire sort of person. But look, the bottom line here is that there are far greater negative externalities associated with removing these regulations or making it more difficult for the EPA to enforce those regulations in the first place than it would be just to leave it how it was already. Because, as I mentioned, you know, the health of the citizens will get worse, premiums increase, more people probably will move out if they could, more people will die, less jobs, and also we're contributing greater pollutants to the environment, which is also exacerbating climate change, which is going to have a devastating effect in the long run. So, I mean, and what is fueling all this? What is contributing to? I mean, like this was obviously a Supreme Court decision, but like, what is all this mean? Well, I mean, like a lot of this is driven through, you know, the fossil fuel industry. They are in the pockets of many politicians, and I feel like we can't really get the ball rolling in terms of anything really if we don't subvert the things that exacerbate the corruption in the first place. So I feel like that should be where a lot of people, you know, try to fix first. But you know, it's unlikely that's going to happen. But we'll see. I mean, this is already done. This ruling, it's in the books. It's done. It doesn't mean it can't be repealed in the future, but like, we don't really have a lot of time with climate change. So, and considering a lot of these people are in for life, it's like, oh boy, we are staring down the barrel of a gun. Look, when it comes to climate change, a lot of people don't give a shit. Now, of course, there's definitely people who do give a shit, but I feel like a lot of people can't really relate to climate change because it's not like immediately noticeable. Like the effects of climate change are going to take place slowly and over a long period of time, and people are just going to like get accustomed to the new environment, and people are going to some people may not even recognize the relationship between the emissions of like the carbon emissions and the effects climate change have overall. And I think that that may be a contributing factor to why people don't really think a lot, don't really aren't as outraged as they maybe should be with respect to climate change and any sort of anti um, uh, climate change, legislation. But it is what it is, and I feel like also when you live in like a country that is more uh, I don't not civilized. That's a bad way of saying it. It's more like a first world country, more like financially secure or whatever. And there's a lot of luxuries and shit. I think that it could be easy to get distracted and just to not care about stuff like that, like with like climate change, especially given the fact, like I mentioned, that it's one of those like long-term slow things that take place over time, so people can't relate to it the way they can with like, abortion or something. So that, in addition to the fossil fuel industry, uh, lobbying politicians and so forth, cultivate the environment we're in now. And it doesn't help that the EPA's powers are being even further restricted with respect to this. So I don't know. I wish I had some hope to give. I think that, I think that people can really make a difference if they do come together, and that's a lot, and that is a thing that you know isn't happening, but it could easily happen. A lot of the problems that are happening right now, I think that like there's a lot of it's a really complicated shit, obviously, but in terms of addressing it, I don't think the calculus has necessarily changed compared to like a couple of years ago. I think like people still need to do the same things that they have known the answers to, like vote for the right politicians, donate, volunteer, phone bank, do everything we possibly can to unseat Republicans. They are the. That's not to say that like Democrats are amazing or something, but Democrats present at the very least pro-democracy rhetoric, policies, and they seem to care. They're just better than Republicans. They're not great, but they're better than Republicans, and they seem to uh, at least give something of a shit about climate change, for better or worse, as ineffective as they are. But as I mentioned, it's better than fucking Republicans. So I mean, that's the environment that we're in right now. Of course, it's not ideal, but it's preferable over electing conservative politicians. Okay, so okay, we're done there. Okay, so if you thought that was bad, it somehow gets worse with the Supreme Court shit because they've been going Joker mode. All right, I guess we'll get into it. So the Supreme Court has been making ruling after ruling after ruling recently. Um, it was with Roe v. Wade; they overturned that. They were also talking about overruling some other things, such as Griswold, Lawrence, Obergefell. They also were ruled they made some other crazy rulings, such as the person in Maine, the football coach who was kneeling during football games. There's a lot of bullshit with that specifically because I don't really want to get into the weeds, I guess, with that specific one. Maybe I can make a separate segment, but um, with they made that ruling, they also made the ruling on the EPA, which I actually already made a segment on. But this one right here, this next one, is perhaps the worst one. And I mean, that's not even like it's not even an exaggeration. I mean, this next ruling that they are potentially ruling on could have dramatic consequences for the way that this country functions moving forward. So let's take a look. So the case is Moore versus Harper, and it is this headline kind of underscores the stakes here. So let's read a little bit. The Supreme Court's announcement on Thursday that it will hear Moore versus Harper, a case that could concentrate an unprecedented amount of power in gerrymandered state legislatures, should alarm anyone who cares about democracy. The case is perhaps the gravest threat to American democracy since the Jan 6 attack. It seeks to reinstate gerrymandered congressional maps that were struck down by North Carolina's highest court because they, quote, subordinated traditional neutral redistricting criteria in favor of extreme partisan advantage, end quote, for the Republican Party. The plaintiffs argued that the state Supreme Court didn't have the authority to strike down these maps, and they rest their claim on legal arguments that would fundamentally alter how congressional and presidential elections are conducted. Moore involves the, quote, independent state legislature doctrine, end quote, a theory that the Supreme Court has rejected many times over the course of more than a century, but that started to gain steam, after Republican appointees gained a supermajority in the Supreme Court at the end of the Trump administration. Under the strongest form of this doctrine, all state constitutional provisions that constrain state lawmakers' ability to skew federal elections would cease to function. State courts would lose their power to strike down anti-democratic state laws, such as gerrymander that violates the state constitution or a law that tosses out ballots for arbitrary reasons. I'm going to read that again. State courts would lose their power to strike down anti-democratic state laws, such as gerrymander, that violates the state constitution or a law that tosses out ballots for arbitrary reasons. And state governors who ordinarily have the power to veto new state elections would lose that power. As Justice Neil Gorsuch described this approach in the 2020 concurring opinion in a case concerning the deadline for casting mail-in ballots in Wisconsin, the Constitution provides that state legislators, not federal judges, not state governors, not other state officials, bear primary responsibility for settling election rules. 4 justices, Gorsuch, plus Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Brett Kavanaugh, have all endorsed some version of this independent state legislator doctrine. Meanwhile, 4 other justices and 3 liberal justices, plus Chief Justice John Roberts, have signaled that they will not overrule the court's many precedents rejecting this doctrine. That most likely leaves the fate of American democracy in the hands of Amy Coney Barrett. That said, it is unclear whether the Supreme Court would implement the most extreme version of this doctrine with a rigid rule that a state Supreme Court can never strike down a state election law, or that a state governor can never veto an election bill, or a less extreme one. This would, actually, let me keep reading just a little more. Last March, the Moore case appeared in the court's shadow docket. Although a majority of the court voted to temporarily turn the case away, with Kavanaugh explaining that he vetoed to do so because the case arrived at the court at the wrong time. That's a very interesting way of describing it. Alito wrote a dissenting opinion saying that he would have immediately reinstated North Carolina's gerrymandered maps. His opinion also just suggested. By the way, I'm sorry, but this quote here, "arrived at the wrong time," is totally, to me. This just what this means to me is that the courts, as much as people want to say they aren't partisan, are full of shit. This is obviously motivated through partisanship, and why else would the fuck he say that it arrived at the wrong time? This is not something that like it arrived. This may as well just say it was an inconvenient time for Republicans to address this specific piece of legislation. Alito wrote a dissenting opinion saying that he would immediately. Yep. His opinion also suggests that he wants to give himself and his fellow justices maximal flexibility to overrule state court decisions that he does not like. It's fucking crazy. That he does not like. So, under Alito's approach, pro-democracy state constitutional provisions might not cease to function altogether. They would only cease to function when Alito and 4 of his fellow Republican colleagues wish to suspend them. So, it wouldn't be a democracy at this point. Needless to say, the stakes are more exceedingly high. The court's decision and more could potentially neutralize many states' efforts to combat partisan gerrymander. And in key swing states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where Republicans control the state legislature and Democrats control either the governor's mansion, the state Supreme Court, or both, more could give the Republican Party unlimited control over how federal elections are conducted. So, at this point, if this were to be ruled in the way I believe it's going to be, then the United States would cease to function as a democracy. This is essentially ensuring that there is no such thing. Well, sorry. So this is essentially making it to where there are no swing states anymore. There are no, there's no purple states. Everything is, it's not a democracy functionally at that point, because what is happening here is a repudiation of any form of democratic principles, because these districts can get redrawn in a way that makes it to where Republicans are invincible to any form of like power being unseated, and this also draws in concern regarding how power would function, or like how these presidential elections go as well. And what's also concerning is this implication of ballots being tossed out for arbitrary reasons. It's because they could just say, I mean, hypothetically speaking, they could basically say, like in these red states, they could say, no, mail-in ballots are fraudulent inherently, therefore none of them count, even though a disproportionate amount of them are usually Democrat, and conveniently enough, they have declared that to be fraudulent, so they could just throw it away because they say it's fraudulent. In these red states, keep in mind. I mean, who the fuck's going to stop them? They're the ones who have the power. They're the ones who are drawing these districts. They are the ones who are going to be able to redistrict in favor of extreme partisan advantages. This is not a functional democracy. This isn't. This is, we are locked in place at this point, right? Until, I guess, these people die. I don't know, but, or if this doesn't rule this the way I think it will. But at this point, the United States, just any semblance of the United States being a democracy at this point would be like dissolved. And I'm going to be honest with you. If this were to pass and it plays out the way that we all know it will, because they can just rig these fucking elections and they can just toss out like mail-in ballots if they wanted to. I mean, if this plays out in a way where it is overwhelmingly clear that Republicans are going to be gerrymandering the fuck even more than they have the capacity to, and are virtually untouchable in these elections, then I don't know. I feel like secession maybe the next step for these red states, right? Because one of the arguments against secession is the fact that you are casting all these minorities and everyone to the waste bucket in these red states. Additionally, they're not going to be receiving any form of federal money, whether it be Social Security, disability, or welfare, for example. That funding will cease to exist for these red states. That is one of the arguments, and honestly, it's compelling. At the same time, you are living in a like in a virtual hell when you live in these areas, because I mean, if Republicans have no form of obstacles in their way to be unseated, or at the very least the preconditions leading to these elections make it to where they are very untouchable, then there's no fucking point. They can, I mean, like, it literally outlines the fact that they could just toss out ballots they don't like, So, if you live in a red state, if you can, I highly recommend, like, moving. Another problem is that Republicans don't know how to govern. And by that, I mean, like, they don't seem to recognize they don't seem to recognize the relationship between certain things. So, for example, they want a very laissez-faire, you know, uh, you know, no regulations, no government, like all that shit. But functioning countries have the government involved in only meaningful capacities. So, what I mean by that is, like, we took a look at the EPA thing, right? And the fact of that Republicans are very against regulation, and they're against also EPA, like, I guess, environmental regulations generally speaking. But the problem with erasing that, or like abolishing the EPA, or like any of that shit, is that it harms. It's not. It doesn't only invoke ecological damage. It also harms the citizens by virtue of their health. If there's more pollution in the area, your citizens are more likely to get sick, which will therefore increase premiums on healthcare. Which it affects multiple things. We can go down this rabbit hole and see where, like, it's fucking everything up. And a similar dynamic with this can also be applied to other areas as well, such as Republicans' view on taxation. And the point I guess I'm trying to elucidate here is that Republicans don't seem to have any form of, like, long-term, like, they only see a couple steps ahead. They only see 1 or 2 steps ahead, but they don't see 5 steps ahead in terms of how policy affects outcomes. But at the end of the day, does that even matter? Do Republicans even give a shit? Well, honestly, I don't know if they do. But if they don't, it wouldn't be surprising. But also, it could just be a matter of ignorance, right? I think a lot of, like, normal Republicans are just I think they're just misguided. But there are certainly many of whom that are, just openly in favor of, like, killing all gay people. I wouldn't be surprised. Religiosity also plays an element into conservatism, because conservatism prioritizes traditional values, and traditional values entails religion. So, look, I guess I'm kind of rambling, but, like, at the end of the day here, with this, with Moore versus Harper, this is a very important case. I mean, they're not going to be ruling on this for a little bit because I think they're on recess, the Supreme Court. But yeah, we are nearing the end state of, like, democracy in this country if this passes, because we are at a point where, because of the failed coup attempt on January 6th, seems like Republicans have been attacking other forms of trying to make it easier and creating conditions where it is much easier to, because they're not going to like not do a coup attempt again. This is certainly like something that is probably going to happen. They because why wouldn't they? If they control if they win these midterms, if they control worst case scenario, okay, in the midterms, they win both the House and the Senate. The Senate is a toss up, but if they were to win the House and the Senate, and then in 2024 win the presidency, we are going to have virtually no any form of checks and balances already at this point would be gone, and there would be nothing that would stop Republicans from just forcing their will upon the population. One of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of them now be more honest, like for example, Lauren Boebert openly saying that the church should direct the government. The reason why we're seeing them being a little more honest here is because they can get away with it. They're seizing power in all these different areas across not just the country, but also the branches of government. And what is going to stop them? They can do shit, and they're in the pot. Everyone is connected. Everyone is on the same page with their ideology. Everyone's just gonna turn their heads. Do you think people are gonna adhere to bureaucracy? Do you think they give a shit about popular opinion? No, they're going to force their will upon the population. And the Democrats are going to sit there and take it like fucking pussies. I do want to. Okay, hold on one sec. I actually do want to show you guys some of the election shit that I have been looking at. And we will look at just how bad this next election is going to be for Democrats. It's definitely not good. So as of right now, July 2nd, 2022, for the 2022 midterms, right now is a toss-up in the Senate. 54 Republicans are projected to win. 46 Democrats are. Now, one of the contributing factors to why this is more a toss-up is because in the Senate race, Republicans have they have some weaker candidates. For example, in Pennsylvania, with Fetterman versus Dr. Oz. So there are some they're not running the best of the best, I suppose, in the Senate, but Republicans are certainly favored in the House. So that is something to consider. If we take a look at some of these states, so okay. So if we look at some of the toss-ups here, so some of the toss-ups, like Nevada, for example. Nevada seems to be close. So Joe Lombardo, the Republican, going for governor, is projected to lose against Steve Sisolak, I guess. So that's a toss-up. The Senate is also a toss-up, supposedly. Ooh, very close here. Catherine Masto, 51 in 100. Adam, 49. So pretty damn close here. I guess all we can do is hope that changes. This has been trending downwards, it looks like. Well, it had a little bit of a gap there, and then went down. Yeah, so this one's going to be one to watch out for sure in Nevada, I think. If we just look at it, like Nevada overall, it's pretty close. Arizona is also pretty close. Kansas is also close. Pennsylvania, I would say, is somewhat close too. Yeah, 55 and 100 for the Republican there. In Nevada, it was 58 and 100 for Democrat. Alaska, yeah. This is a pretty important election. It doesn't look necessarily good for Democrats, but I think that they could utilize the issue of abortion because that's very easily relatable and a lot of people understand it intuitively. And I think a lot of people are just okay with a lot of people support Roe v. Wade. They'd be fucking idiots if they didn't capitalize on that. They have to use the right rhetoric though, because Democrats simply saying Roe v. Wade is on the ballots, abortion's on the ballot, we gotta vote, 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 without giving specifics or having any sort of charisma whatsoever. It's not going to work. They're not going to do well. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see. I might go a little bit more into this later. But for now, I want to move on to one thing here that is going to drive me crazy. You know what? No, let's really quickly, let's actually go through this 538 thing because I do want to somewhat touch upon this race. I think that this is important actually. So we already highlighted Nevada, okay? We want Steve to win. He's honestly at this point anyone but a Republican, okay? He may not be good. I mean, I'm sure that there's some of these candidates like Steve who are like really cringe on a lot of shit. But hey, the stakes are high. We need less Republicans in office. It is the bottom line. As far as I'm concerned, the Republican Party shouldn't even exist, just by virtue of January 6th. The fact that January 6th took place and most of the Republican Party, I think basically everyone in the Republican Party backed it initially and then only backed off of it because of optics, goes to show that the Republican Party is against democracy, very pro-authoritarian, and that's that. I mean, like, okay, it's like maybe there's some Republicans who weren't for Jan 6, like maybe Mitt Romney. Okay, cool. I guess you can throw him a bone for not wanting a fascist takeover. But at the end of the day, okay, I think it's totally fine to paint with a broad brush with this. Republican just is, there's no debate here. If there are any Republicans like running for office, they should just not win. There's no time for this shit. Okay, but anyway, for governor race, yes, this would be good. He has a slightly favored. I'm more interested in the Senate. The House obviously is kind of like foregone. It feels like I'm more interested in the Senate since it's a toss-up. So we looked at Nevada here. If we go to my home state, DeWine is overwhelmingly likely to win re-election, which is no surprise. Unfortunately, and we already kind of discussed this, but Tim Ryan is not likely to win the senatorial race in Ohio. It's unfortunate. Very, very best case scenario is, and I mean like this is like not even, it's like basically not going to happen, but 50.6.5% of a vote share towards Ryan is like the outlier there. Yeah, Vance is more than likely going to win that. There's no doubt in my mind of this. We can try our best, but look, it's not going to be. The odds are really stacked against us on that. So Ohio's probably lost. I'm interested to see the Senate on this one. Fetterman is slightly favored to beat Oz. We can definitely do some work here on this front. I think that we could definitely push Fetterman over the edge with this. This is actually a pretty important one because of how close it is. So this one's of more greater emphasis, I would say. Fetterman win would be great. Like he doesn't have like the best views, obviously. Like I think his views on Israel are cringe, but like a lot of politicians in general are cringe on Israel. I think you have to kind of play to that Catholic base because a lot of people in this country are religious, even though atheism is increasing in popularity. But yeah, So anyway, regardless. Fetterman, this one's a close one. Hopefully he can pull it out, and we got to do work to get him to win. Josh Shapiro seems comfortably in the lead here. So this may not be as important. This gap could definitely close, but I don't think it will. PA 8. This one's close. Damn fucking near split down the middle here. Obviously, this one's going to be another one to look out for. Okay. Some of these are pretty, like, obvious here. Arizona. Kate Hobbs is a slight underdog here. Keep in mind, I don't know all these politicians I'm looking at, but I don't have to, because if you're blue, you're based. Okay, you're the default assumption. You are the best case scenario. Anyone who is red or a Republican would be should not win, is basically the rule I have established in my mind. So Kate Hobbs is a slight underdog here, but we can definitely close the gap for sure. And the Senate, Mark Kelly's slight favorite, so that's good. I would want this to be secured though, because I don't want to, like, we might have to do some work on this one just to ensure that we don't, there's no, like, surprises. There's still some time between now and the election, but, like, because of how close it is, I'm not comfortable with it. I would want, like, a 10 or greater point, favorite going into October, I would say. The governor, oh, we already did that. Yeah. In the House, this is this is comfortable, so I don't think that that's necessarily important to look at. This one seems lost. The 2nd District, Arizona 2nd District. Yeah. Also, the geography is important here. Like, where these districts are located, that is also important and a contributing factor to how well a Democrat versus a Republican is doing, because if you're closer to a metropolitan area, the Democrat will probably have a bump in support there. So that's another thing to consider. I don't know where these districts are necessarily located, but yeah. If it's this overwhelming, then it's likely that this is more of a rural area, if I were to guess. Yeah. That's in Arizona. If we just take a quick look at Kansas, this one's pretty close. This is for governor. If Laura Kelly could pull out the dub on this, that would be pretty fucking crazy. Because Kansas is almost entirely farmland. So that's a toughie there. I mean, the fact that it's so rural kind of makes every fucking point that much more difficult to get. This is basically lost here for Senate. This is basically a foregone conclusion. This one's pretty close. Oh wait, we already looked at that. Adkins. This one's kind of not good for the Democrat there. Okay, well, Kansas. The best case scenario for Kansas for us basically is to look at the governor race, and maybe we can hopefully get Laura Kelly across the finish line. But honestly, that's unlikely given the circumstances. If we move on to, I think that might be the biggest races here. I wonder what Georgia's looking at. Stacey Abrams is damn fucking behind. I don't see Stacey winning governor. That is totally unlikely. The Senate's more of a toss-up. Warnock, pretty close right now. It seems like if we go to the polls, Warnock's plus 10 for coining this one. It's even. Warnock plus 1, Warnock plus 4, Warnock plus 5, Walker plus 4, Walker plus 10, Walker plus 3. Yeah, I mean, this one's close. Definitely close. If Warnock could win, damn, that would be awesome. This is for the Senate. Damn, dude, if Warnock could win, that's actually really good. This gap is very doable. Now, the strategies, I can't really give much commentary upon the strategies that we should employ to these specific races because each race is different and functions differently. So, like, there might be some overlap with strategy-wise, but, like, I feel I can't really speak necessarily to, like, what we should be doing other than the normal, like, phone bank, you know, knock on doors, do everything you can, donate everything you can to get these people across the finish line. We already looked at Stacey Abrams there. Bishop, pretty comfortable here. I'm not, and by the way, these things that are like, you know, and I'm not saying necessarily, I'm not even advocating for like being complacent, but like, there's definitely some races that take more priority than others just by how close it is. Yeah, some of these are pretty favored, so I'm assuming they're closer to like Atlanta, if I were to guess, and some other bigger cities in Georgia. Damn, okay. I think those are some of the biggest or ones I want to look at here. Oh, some of these are, it just tells me outright. We already looked at some of these. Kansas, Nevada, and Arizona. Yeah. There's no race. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think if we look a little bit, this was last updated yesterday, but the gubernatorial, dude, I can never pronounce this word. The goober, I don't know. Okay, look, I had a speech impediment growing up, so it's partially not my fault, but these races take the theme from the Senate a step further. Individual candidates can matter a lot. For instance, even though Michigan is slightly red-leaning, Michigan's incumbent Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer is a clear favorite, and Wisconsin's Democratic Governor Tony Evers is also a slight favorite. In Pennsylvania, an open Senate race, Democratic nominee Josh Shapiro is also favored. However, unlike in the Senate, Republicans also have some strongly positioned incumbents, Brian Kemp, Greg Abbott, and DeSantis. There is no shot DeSantis loses. This guy is on. He is one of the prime fucking people to run in 2024. No shot, dude. I mean, if there's some wild, wacky shit that comes out that might heavily favor or heavily influence polling, I can only say that taking place in the short term, not really the long term. But no shot DeSantis loses this. I hope I'm wrong, but that is there's no way, dude. Same with Mark Rubio. He's just these people are too popular to lose right now. DeSantis is obviously clearly favored to win. This one's a more 23rd district in Florida. Yeah, this one's yeah. This one is in Florida's 15th district. Jackie Toledo is projected to win pretty handsomely there. Yeah, dude, it's crazy there. If we look at the governor races, the closest margin right now is in Arizona. We already took a look at this, and this one's pretty important, so I want to highlight it again. So Katie Hobbs, 45 and 100 times, 55 and 100 times. I should probably also read like what this means when we're looking at these things, but this is basically like, so it simulates the election 40,000 times to see who wins most often. This sample of 100 outcomes gives you an idea of the range of scenarios the model considers possible. So a sample size of 40,000 simulations is pretty sufficient if I were to say. Well, they took a sample of 100 of the 40,000, but they probably made it to where it's representative in proportion to the amount of times Katie Hobbs won and Kari Lake. So this one has the slimmest of margins. Let's hope Katie wins. We got a phone bank and I'll do all that shit. I want to see like the Senate. Do they have like this for the Senate? Because that'd be interesting. Another close one is Kansas. Yeah. So these are pretty close margins, I would say. But the governor race isn't as important to me. It's important, but it's not as important to me as like the uh, the Senate. Mm. I'm surprised that this discrepancy is as extreme as it is. I'm not saying like Texas isn't like super right leaning, but like Beto O'Rourke, I would figure it'd be a little more. He must be running a bad campaign because this is pretty bad, dude. Henry Cuellar versus Casey Garcia. Cuellar is projected to win, but these are one of the few Democrats that I know are like is objectively terrible and may as well just be a Republican. He's as bad, maybe even worse than Joe Manchin because he votes like 60% or 69% of the time with Republicans. So like, yeah, it's I guess we can count our blessings for that fucking 31%, but yeah, or whatever it is. Um, okay, so that's that. In the Senate, it is pretty rough here. 54 and 100 Republicans will win. 46 and 100 Democrats will win. Well, it's not rough in terms of like it's just like pretty close. That's what I mean. Um, yeah. So if we look at that, that's pretty close here. Control of the Senate has been flipping. So at first it was 60 and 100 and 40 and 100 on June 11th. I don't know when the Roe versus Wade thing happened. It had to have been last Thursday, right? So that would have been June 29th? No. June 23rd, I think. I don't know, around that time. But then it went down. Now it's 50. It was 50-50 on June 29th. Now it's 55-45 June 30th. July 1st, it was 54-46. So this trend will probably go loop back more in the Democrats' favor, but it depends on, again, it depends on how good of a campaign these Democrats can run or can run on in the Senate. Like the abortion thing is a prime thing that they can use, a really good ammunition, but again, it's a matter of using it. Um, they have to call out Republicans by name, in fact, because this is ridiculous. Like for example, for the abortion thing, they could easily use a story like this. Okay, Mississippi House Speaker says 12-year-old incest victims should continue pregnancies a term. Why the fuck are we not? Why is this not being signal boosted by like every fucking Democrat? Every Democrat should be signal boosting this. Everyone. They should be like screaming from the rooftops that this is the kind of shit that Republicans want. They could, if they really think that abortion's on the ballot, then why the fuck are they not signal boosting stories like this? This is ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is that Democrats are fucking spineless, and they don't do shit. They don't speak to anything. And you know what? This actually would be a good segue into this next segment because um, I think that this just goes to show how fucking unserious Democrats are. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, hold on 1 second. Um, all right, let me just find this video. Hold on. Sorry, I think yeah, I hit that on accident. Um, um, okay, okay, yeah. Let's see. Wait, no. That's a year ago. Is this the beginning?
Thank you so much for having me here. You were on a plane.
Okay, I think this is the beginning. Whoa, what the fuck? Sorry about that. Okay, I think that's part 2. Alright, so let's do it, okay? I am ready for my blood pressure to go through the fucking roof with this, because I saw some of this interview, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I suffered apoplexy after even like 30 seconds to a minute watching this, which after doing so, I need to take some pills or something. This is, you know how like we are witnessing in real time the revocation of all our civil rights, basically. Well, this is the Vice President of the United States, who is ostensibly a Democrat, responding to the reversal of Roe v. Wade, a fundamental, one of the largest and most popular pieces of civil rights. So, let's see what good old Kamala, has to say about it.
Thank you so much.
And you know what? I may have to turn up that volume.
You were on a plane when the Supreme Court.
I definitely do. Okay. Thanks for, yeah, okay. Okay, let me test the audio.
Vice President, thank you so much for having me here.
You know what? I'm just going to go all the way. Let's do it. 100.
Vice President, thank you so much for having me here. You were on
do
a
it.
plane when the Supreme Court overturned.
So what I'm going to do here is this. Because Kamala is a politician, she tends to do this thing, and I've noticed this during the presidential debates, but she tends to do this thing where she doesn't take things seriously, or she tries to weasel a way of answering questions. Now, a lot of politicians do this, but she is one of the worst ones doing so. So let's take a look.
Roe versus Wade, as the highest ranking woman ever elected.
Now, hold on one sec.
Having me here, Wade.
Yeah, look at this picture. Can you imagine for a second trying to relate to your average American as and like trying to feel for them, like the overturning of abortion rights for millions of women? Can you imagine trying to relate to them while you sit and stare at a plasma screen TV on a private jet? Like, this picture is like, wow, dude. Okay, yeah, this is very relatable.
As the highest ranking woman ever elected in U.S. history, what was going through your mind at that moment?
Well, so I was on Air Force Two, heading to Aurora, Illinois, to talk about.
Do you look at her? What? Look at her demeanor.
What was going through your mind at that moment?
Well, so I was on Air Force Two, heading to Aurora, Illinois.
She's smiling as we are discussing the revocation of abortion rights, which is going to kill thousands of people. This is the lead-in. This is what she first begins talking about.
So I was on Air Force Two, heading to Aurora, Illinois.
Completely detached. This is honest. This is probably indicative of her like sociopathy or something, because the fact that she can't approach this subject with the respect and dignity it deserves by leading into it by going like, it's just, to me this comes off as insensitive and also not understanding the gravity of the situation. Because keep in mind, this ruling doesn't really affect her personally, and so I feel like in response to that, she feels like it's appropriate to like lead into it by saying, well, yeah, I was going to this place, like, you know, on this private jet, as she's like smiling about it. It's kind of weird.
To talk about maternal health.
What is this facial expression? I'm sorry, but like, I hate to like psycho, like, this is a major overturning of civil rights in the United States. And I know I'm getting hung up on like a couple seconds here, but like, can we like maybe approach this with more seriousness? Maybe don't smile. I don't know. Like, this comes off extremely unserious to me, and honestly disrespectful, because like many women are obviously going to be are very worried, anxious, and are likely going to die as a result of this being overturned, because the states are going to put total bans on abortion.
We were with Lauren Underwood, with the chair of Judiciary, Dick Durbin, Senate Judiciary. We were headed there to unveil a plan of
No one
based on the work
fucking
we've been
cares.
doing to ensure that women receive the kind of support they need during and post-pregnancy. And we thought that the decision would come down sometime soon, but not at that moment. And I was shocked. And it's one thing when you know something's going to happen. It's another thing when it actually happens.
Okay. Hold on. I just want to rewind this a little bit.
To ensure that women.
Something that's weird to me is the fact that she evokes certain emotions. It feels like to me that like she's forcing it. Does it not come off that way? Because if you read her facial expressions, it comes off as like she's like thinking about how she should look, and then she like puts it in that, and then she like consciously makes a decision to present herself that way, as opposed to it just being a natural like reflection of how she's feeling. Like, maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but that's just how it comes across. If we just take a minute to look at her facial expressions here.
To unveil a plan based on the work we've been doing to ensure that women receive the kind of support they need during and post-pregnancy. And, we thought that the decision would come down sometime soon, but not at that moment. And I was shocked. And, it's one.
Yeah, like, okay. Yeah, we were all. Why was she shocked? Wait, hold on. This was something that we all knew was going to happen. And the fact that this is coming out of left field here is kind of like, okay. You have 6 far right judges in the Supreme Court ruling on abortion. I don't know if it's that shocking.
Thing when you know something's going to happen, it's another thing when it actually happens.
And notice how she's not really saying anything.
And
laughing in the while discussing the fact that many people's civil rights are being rolled back in real time.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because they actually did it. And here's what they did.
Why is this shocking though? Like, we all knew that they were going to do it, and it was only like a matter of time. And it was more what's to me what's shocking is the fact that the Democrats supposedly were blindsided by this and don't seem to have really a answer to this, like in terms of like politics, like playing politics. Yeah.
The court actually took a constitutional right that has been recognized for half a century and took it from the women of America.
She doesn't give a shit.
That's shocking.
She's smiling. Dude, I can't. Oh my god, I can't get over it. She's fucking smiling as she's talking about the revocation of civil rights for millions of women. She's like, it's shocking. And then she like smiles. Look at this. Are you fucking kidding me?
When you think about it.
This is what I mean though when I said that like she seems to be like forcing emotion, because this like going from this expression to this in like half a second has to be manufactured. It's not some sort of reflexive thing, because like I guess everyone can be different, but at the same time, usually when you're going from thing to thing, what you're talking about and how you express the emotion behind what you're saying, it's usually a gradual like thing. It's not like a goes from this to.
That's shocking.
It doesn't go from this
when you think about
to that. Do you see that? It was like a snap of the finger. Actually, I'll play it again because it's kind of slow.
Half a century, and took it from the women of America. That's shocking.
So it goes from smiling to
When you think about
that to like in half a second, it has to be the product of her forcing the emotion. It's not like she actually gives a shit about what's happening because it doesn't really affect her. I mean, she's fucking rich. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. I mean, she's probably not looking to bear children regardless, but yeah.
in terms of what that means, in terms of democratic principles, in terms of the ideals upon which we were founded about liberty, about freedom. I thought about it as, a parent. We have 2 children who are in their 20s, a son and a daughter. I thought about it as a godparent of teenagers. I thought of it as an
What are you gonna do about it?
aunt of preschool children.
And a woman yourself.
And a woman myself.
So you thought about it. What are you gonna do about it, Kamala? What is the plan here? Maybe she'll get to it. Maybe she'll get to it. Maybe she won't. But I have a feeling she won't. It's one thing to highlight your reaction, but like it's another thing to be like, because when I thought about that, if I'm a politician, I'm a Democrat, and I see that the court overruled abortion rights, and I know that because and I know that it's coming because because everyone knew. The first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, what's next? What are we going to do to ensure people have have access to abortion? Let's do everything we can and explore those options. Now, of course, she's obviously just right now it's saying that she's shocked that she thought about it as a parent and all this other shit. Okay, but her saying all this shit just comes across to me as like her grandstanding and not actually treating it as like okay, what's next? Because the first thing that comes to my mind if I saw that ruling was like, all right, let me get Sleepy Joe on the phone. Let's figure this shit out, man. That's the first thing I'm thinking about. I'm not over here sitting back like, whoa, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, I'm thinking about like what to do, not like just being shocked by the thing everyone knew was going to happen in the first place.
And the daughter of a woman. And a granddaughter of a woman.
Is she still going?
And, my husband and I are actually talking about it. We have a 23-year-old.
She's still going,
and
Abad.
my mother-in-law's in her 80s. Our daughter will not know the rights for the amount of time that my mother-in-law.
She's still grandstanding. Wait, she's still doing it.
That should be well settled.
This is all grandstanding, means nothing, is vapid, just to virtue signal. Like, how long has this been going? This has been like a minute so far that she's been like talking about it, like her reaction.
That a woman should have to make decisions about her own body.
And also, she's speaking as though she's not the vice president of the United States, the second most powerful person on the planet. Are you like, okay, we get it, you're shocked. What are you gonna do?
And when we think about it, everyone has something at risk on this. First of all, if you are a parent of sons, do think about what this means for the life of your son and what that will mean in terms of the choices he will have.
What the fuck am I watching?
And what that will mean in terms of the choices he will have.
Okay. I'm convinced that she's a psychopath. This is not a normal reaction that you have to the revocation of abortion rights that will kill thousands, perhaps millions of people. She's smiling. She doesn't give a shit. By the way, again, I said this before, I'll say it again. She doesn't fucking care. She wants to virtue signal she cares because she knows that her base supports abortion rights. Her personally, no, she doesn't give a fuck. She can say that she thought about it as much as she wants and she thinks it's like obvious, blah, blah, blah. But she's acting like she's not like the second most powerful person on the planet. And she's acting like this is like some, she's acting like this is like, she seems to just be trivializing it as like some minor inconvenience. Like, oh, it's a shame that people just lost their right to abortion, but, oh well, I'm just gonna, drink my champagne on my plane and and fly to the next location. Like, this is a very unserious way of addressing and uh, managing this response. This response is really weird, and the fact that she has the audacity to like treat it like it's some whatever, like like look at this facial expression on screen, dude. Like this is fucking crazy.
Do think about it
This
in the
is
context.
this is not a normal, authentic reaction if you're like liberal to people losing civil rights.
Of the fact that they wrote this decision, including concurring opinions, that suggests that other rights, such as the freedom to make decisions about when you were going to start a family, the freedom and the right to make decisions about contraception, IUDs, what this is going to mean in terms of in vitro fertilization.
Well, let me ask you about that, because
Yeah.
Justice Thomas, this is what you're referring to, did
Right.
write a concurring opinion saying the court should reconsider other cases of precedent to protect same-sex marriage, contraception, intimacy,
Right.
and more. Do
Right.
you think that the Supreme Court is on
Right.
the path to reverse those as well?
I definitely believe this is not over. I do.
Can she just not fucking directly answer shit? So the question was, do you think that they're going to overturn more shit in the future, like civil rights? And she just says it's not over. That's not actually directly answering the question there. I mean, it implies an answer. It's not an answer directly, though.
I think he just said the quiet part out loud. And I think that is why we all must really understand the significance of what just happened. This is profound.
Okay, this is amazing. Let me actually rewind it, and you can actually see in real time her the gears and the cogs moving in her brain, trying to navigate through this dialogue tree as a politician. Just watch this.
I think he just said the quiet part out loud.
Pausing to think about what to say next, like what is the most politically correct thing I can say.
And I think that is why we all must really understand the significance of what just happened.
Pausing to try to jump to the next branch on that dialogue tree.
This is profound.
She found it.
And the way that this decision has come down has been so driven, I think, by the politics of the issue versus what should be the values that we place on freedom and liberty in our country.
That means nothing. She's like, I think that this comes down to the politics. This has been like, wait, what did she say exactly?
I think by the politics of the town has been so driven, I think, by the politics of the issue
So driven by the politics of the issue.
versus what should be the values that we place on freedom and liberty in our country.
That is very vague.
Right? The right to privacy. Let's think of this in the context of the laws that are being passed in states. Dana, in 13 states, by my count, they will not allow.
Again, it's amazing to see a politician in the like how their brain works, because she is now deviated kind of from the main question that the interviewer asked, and is now jumping to something else completely. And by doing that, she's given the opportunity to like again go through this dialogue tree, and she can just keep virtue signaling and speaking abstractly and vaguely.
A woman to have access to reproductive health and to an abortion if she is the victim of rape or incest. So let me tell you something. As a former prosecutor who specialized.
This is so indignant. Do you see like her mannerisms?
To an abortion if she is the victim of rape or incest.
Now look at the way that she talks about her experience in the past as a prior prosecutor.
So let me tell you something. As a
She like cocks her head back and her whole body language comes a little bit back.
former prosecutor who specialized.
This is the most indignant way you can talk. Like, this is so elite. I'm sorry, this is like the least relatable human being ever. This just comes across as like, I don't know, like, again, grandstanding except about your own, experience in the past, your own career. I don't know. It also seems kind of irrelevant.
In crimes of violence against women and girls, in particular child sexual assault and rape, the idea that after a woman has endured such violence to her body, that she would not have the freedom
What is wrong? What?
and authority
Look at the way
to
she's talking.
decide whether she wanted to continue with a pregnancy that is a result of an act of violence.
See, I think one of the big problems here is that the way in which she expresses her emotions and everything, and just her mannerisms overall, just come across as like fake and like forced. So it gives her it just seems like she's forcing everything here, and also it doesn't help the fact that she's speaking very abstractly and just virtue signaling and all that. So it comes across even more vague, or even more fake is the word I'm looking for.
Is absolutely unthinkable.
So, because you are now the Vice President of the United States, part of an administration that is pledging to fight back to find ways to protect women's rights to abortion, I want to ask you some of the things that are kind of out there that some of your former female senators, Senate colleagues, are asking the administration to do.
Now, what is the over and under that she's going to specifically highlight how Republicans have been like insane about passing like crazy policies? Like, what are the odds that like she's going to call out specific Republican politicians? Like, I want to hear those actually, because if she, my odds, look, I think she's not going to call out anyone because she, as well as other Democrats, are fucking spineless invertebrate. Because they don't want to alienate anyone, even if it's an issue that many people. Honestly, it doesn't even matter how popular it is. To me, what matters to me is whether the policies harm people, and if it does, I don't give a fuck who I call out. If they're doing shit that's gonna pass like bans on abortion, which definitely will harm people, I'm gonna call those people out for trying to pass it. So let's see if she does this. But I have a feeling she won't.
Will the administration actively challenge state laws that make it a crime for someone to help a woman travel to another state for an abortion?
So the president rightly last week, when the decision came down, indicated quite unambiguously that we
She's getting nervous.
do everything within our power as an administration through the executive branch to ensure that women have access to the medication they need.
So this doesn't mean anything. This it doesn't. Because okay, we all know what the goals are. How do we get there? How do we ensure that everyone has access to medication? How do we ensure that people have access to abortion? What is the plan? She's basically just saying, yeah, Joe Biden is in favor of helping people get abortion, like get access to abortion services. Okay, we know that. So how do we get there?
Which has been, by the way, FDA approved, and that they will have freedom of travel, and that travel should be unrestricted.
And
should be unrestricted. Yes, we agree on that. But how do we do it? What's the goal?
We're going to do that through the courts if need be.
I am sure that our Department of Justice is going to do that based on every statement that the Attorney General has made.
Which again means nothing. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back, okay? Hello. All right. Sorry about the wait there. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I just had a lot of shit to do that I didn't expect. And now the thing's not working, so that's... Never mind. Now it is. Now it's not. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I want to finish this interview, so we're going to do that before I depart. I think once the stream is, like, finished, I'm going to probably have to... I could probably do this, but I think that you can go to the YouTube thing and then, like, edit out any intermissions or whatever within YouTube itself. So there might be a way in which I can just trim it off. But regardless. Yeah. And if not, I'll just put timestamps in. So you don't have to wait for anyone who's watching this after the fact. But anyway, all right. Well, let's continue with this interview.
Administration expand abortion access or abortion services on federal land, meaning provide the access on federal land that might be in and around states that ban abortion?
Wouldn't it be so based if, like, Biden was like, hey, listen, Jack, we're gonna put some abortion clinics, set them up on federal land. You can't do shit about it. That would be so fucking based, dude. I don't think it'll happen, but it'd be yeah, it'd be awesome.
I think that what is most important right now is that we ensure that the restrictions that the states are trying to put up that would prohibit a woman from exercise.
She's already deviating from the question, because keep in mind what she asked was specifically, is Biden or the federal government considering putting like stuff on federal land to help women get abortions? And her response is already a deviation from that.
In and around states that ban abortion?
Now watch the sidestep here.
I think that what is most important right now...
We're not discussing what's most important right now. We're discussing, is he going to be doing this specific thing that the interviewer asked?
Is that we ensure that the restrictions...
She's trying to find a way to wiggle out of that question.
That would prohibit a woman from exercising what we still maintain is her right.
Now she's, again, speaking very vaguely. Also, nice facial expression here. She's abstracting yet again because she is one of the most spineless fucks in politics. Honestly, God, seriously, she might even be worse than Hillary. It's insane. Like, the non-answers, the like deviations from what the interviewer asked. Like, I know politicians do this all the time, but like in the same breath, it's like, okay, can we like? This is so obvious. Everyone can identify this. Like,
that we do everything we can to empower women to not only seek but to receive the care where it is available.
Is federal land one of those options?
There's the interviewer keeping it on track, asking the question yet again because Kamala didn't answer the first time.
I mean, it's not right now what we are discussing, but I will say that
now she's forced to give an answer.
What is happening in terms of the states, we have to also recognize, Dana, that we are 130 odd days away from an election, which is going to include Senate races.
Stop. Hold on one sec. Sorry, there's like a person delivering shit outside. And now the frame rate's fucking low, which is awesome.
Right? Part of the issue here is that the court has acted now.
Just got to deal with it.
But if you count the votes, don't appear to have the votes in the Senate. Well, there's an election happening.
Does she not understand that there might be... So, hey, you know what? The response to all your rights being rolled back, everyone, hey guys, just vote. LOL, don't do anything else, just vote for us and donate. That is the response here. Now, it's obviously true that, like, they need the votes, but at the same time, can we not try to, I don't know, fucking abolish the filibuster? I don't know. That seems good. Also, what about doing some other shit that, like, all they fucking care about is getting reelected. And unfortunately, like, the issue here isn't, like, that there isn't things that they could do, because there are. It's the fact that she's unwilling to ascertain those ideas.
In 130 odd days, I'm taking, for example, thinking of a Senate race in Georgia, or North Carolina. There's the Senate race coming up just in a couple weeks in Colorado. And we need to change the balance and have pro-choice legislators who have the power to make decisions about whether this constitutional right will be in law, right? We say codified, put it in law so that there will be no ambiguity.
Okay.
And I want to ask you about that in 1 second. Just a couple more questions.
Okay.
What I'm hearing, and you probably are too, is what can this Democratic administration do right now with any executive power that the president has? Can the administration actually increase access to medication abortion?
I think we're pretty clear that to the extent that we can, we will. There's no question
So, no.
about that, because again, it is FDA approved, and if it is prescribed, that a woman should be able to have access to it unfettered.
And what about the idea of financial resources? Some form of voucher for travel, childcare services, other forms of support for people, for women seeking abortions in states where it's not legal, but they just don't have the means to go elsewhere.
I think you're asking a very important point, making a very important point, which is what are the details that are going to go into ensuring that women have the ability to actually travel without impairment. And we know that on this issue, women who have access to resources will probably be far less impacted by.
She's not actually answering the question. If you follow the sentences one after word by word by word, if you follow it down here, she's actually not answering it. Incredible. Amazing.
This decision than women who don't have resources. So this is something that we are looking at because we know, for example, in terms of how.
So this is something we're looking at. Translation. Stop asking. Stop caring. We don't give a fuck. Please vote for us.
This is going to actually impact real people. Over half of women who receive abortions in America are moms. That means that if
now we're deviating away from the premise of the question and moving on towards which people are the most likely to get abortions, which subset of the population.
They're going to have to travel. They've got to find daycare and pay for it. It means that
again, and she does this all the time, including other Democrats. But all they do is identify issues and speak vaguely and abstractly about the values that come about with having the freedom to, for example, get abortions. When what we care about is the strategies that you people, Democrats, will employ to fight against Republicans. Notice how in this entire conversation so far that she has not mentioned a single Republican or called them out for all the fucking insane shit they do. It's just vague, vapid, meaningless talking points about the value abortion is, having the freedom is a value for American people, and we care about freedom because it makes people more free. They speak abstractly and they're never specific, and the reason why is because they never want to alienate anyone, even if it makes sense.
They will, if they are working, which most are, they're going to have to have.
And by the way, what?
Well, if they are working, which most are.
Again, weird facial expressions. Look at this. What is this? What? Can anyone tell me what this is? What am I looking at? I know I'm slightly autistic, but I don't know what this is. Is it is she holding back a smile? Because that's pretty psychopathic, considering the fact we're talking about the rolling back. That it's especially within the purview of this specific question. We're talking about people who are financially incapable of moving through across state borders to get an abortion. The psychological toll that takes upon the person, the financial burden, and all that, and she's treating it like it's like you spilled wine on your fucking white pants or something.
They're going to have time from work, and if they don't have paid leave, they're going to have to figure out how to afford it.
This comes off as this really does come off as condescending. The facial expressions implying that it's some minor thing or it's trivial. Yeah.
It means that they may have to put up money for a train or a bus or a plane, much less a hotel. And so
what are we talking about?
There does not result extreme disparities or any disparities based on who can receive care based on how much money they've got.
Okay, so that means nothing. She didn't really answer the question there. She just identified the problem. All right.
There
Let's
will
move on
be
to the next part of
elderly
this.
babies who don't have the means to support the babies. Will the federal government act at all to increase support there?
I'm so glad you raised that point because I'm going to say this.
Oh my god. Is she going to answer the question? Okay, let's place our bets in chat now. I'm willing to bet, honestly, as high as $100 she won't answer it, or at least directly answer it with specifics.
And here is the abject, obvious hypocrisy.
So she is taking a moment to. What was the question?
Support the babies. Will the federal government act at all to increase support there?
Will the federal government act to support providing financial assistance to like mothers and babies and shit?
I'm so glad you raised that point because I'm going to say this. And here is the abject, obvious hypocrisy.
And now she's about to go on an adventure here, taking us through hypocrisy. We're talking about hypocrisy now. That's not what the question was referring to. It was referring to, are you specifically, the Democrats who hold the executive branch, are you going to do shit to help people in light of this, provide financial assistance to people who need it if they are forced into motherhood or something to that effect? And she is talking about hypocrisy.
Those people who say that they do not want to allow women to choose to make.
By the way, I 100% guarantee that she knew, like saying, like emphasizing that point about hypocrisy was going to result in this banner down here, and it was probably going to get like picked up on AP or something. It'd be like a headline or something, you know? Yeah, very unserious. Doesn't give a shit. Just, doesn't care.
Make the decision with her priest, with her rabbi, with her pastor, that instead the government is going to interfere and make the decision for her. Those same people are the ones who voted against.
Wait, hold on. Who are those people? Who are we referring to here? Come on. Come on. Don't be a coward. Call them out.
The extension of the child tax credit. The same ones who voted against a tax cut.
Who are they? Let's call them out by name. You're the vice president. What the fuck do you have to lose, Call them out.
For families to pay for childcare. The same ones who are voting against paid family leave. The same ones who vote against putting resources into public schools.
So this answer implies that she doesn't have one because she isn't actually addressing the question. So the question, again, to remind everyone, is that what are you guys going to do to help? Are you going to help provide financial assistance or welfare to those who need it in light of the Roe v. Wade ruling? And the answer here is basically trying to highlight hypocrisy of these imaginary people who we don't. I mean, I know who it is. I'm sure many of you know, but it would be great to, like, I don't know, call them out. Like, say the word Republicans. That would be great. All you're doing is confusing the voters because, like, people who are apolitical may not understand or know who are the ones who are being hypocrites here.
I said I was doing work on maternal mortality. We're pushing to say that, for example, Medicaid should be extended for postpartum care from 2 months to 12 months. These are the same people who reject the notion of expansion of Medicaid.
So we're talking about the past, not the future. So the question is predicated on what are you guys going to do, as in future tense, and she's speaking about what the Democrats have already done. And she keeps like mentioning the child tax rate and some other stuff, but that only lasted like not a long time anyway, and it expired, so it's kind of irrelevant too.
Can the president do any of what you just talked about with his pen, without Congress?
Oh, listen, we have, as a democracy, invested in Congress an incredible amount of power.
So that's, again, not an answer.
And specifically the power to create laws. And so we are going to require and depend on Congress to see this through, which means we do need to have the numbers.
Again, not answering the question. She asked specifically, can Biden do this through like executive order? And she said, look, we have Congress and we need the votes. So that's not a fucking answer. Can you imagine for a second having the easiest fucking job in the world of being a Democrat? It is so fucking easy because you have Republicans who are brazenly anti-democratic, who um, who you had the Mississippi House representative Republican who said that a 12-year-old should carry a baby to term. You have this fucking insanity on the right, and the best you can come up with is, hey guys, can you please like vote for us and donate and ha ha ha. This is a little bump in the road, but we'll get to like the promised land. Like there is no passion. There is no like anger. There is just smiles, there is condescension, and there is no plan. Can you imagine being in the position the Democrats are in? You have an arsenal of fucking intercontinental ballistic missiles. You have fucking nukes that you can be dropping on Republicans right now, and they choose to throw tomatoes.
In Congress who are willing to say that they stand for supporting women in every way, including women and men as parents, and all of the cost of being a parent.
So let me ask you about that. You're saying now, the president said that this fall Roe is on the ballot. But what do you say to Democratic voters who argue, wait a minute, we worked really hard to elect
This is a very good point.
Democratic president and vice president, Democratic-led House, a Democratic-led Senate.
Can she shut up? Oh, shit. Sorry about that. Why is there ads? What the fuck? So, the thing that she mentioned is actually really important because, I mean, yeah, we did vote, and guess what? Biden won. Biden won, Jack. Also, Ossoff and that other fucking person in Georgia won too. So, what's up? What's up, Jack? What are we gonna do? We did what you said, but shit's still hitting the fan.
But do what now? What now? I mean, listen.
They don't have a plan. Democrats, we're fucked, guys. I'm sorry to say, we are fucked. If you're a woman, or if you have the capacity to give birth, you are fucked. They don't have a plan. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have arguably one of the easiest, they're in one of the best political positions you can possibly be in because Republicans are rolling back civil rights. All you have to do is say, the Republicans want to take away your freedom. We don't. We think everyone should have the right to an abortion. They are evil demons, and we will protect your freedoms. I don't know. Can you say something? Can you call them out? Can you, like, propose anything? A party of invertebrates. This is the biggest slam dunk you could get, like, of a political position you can be in as a Democrat, and they are fumbling the ball. Honestly, this is completely unacceptable. The vice president, the fucking vice president of the United States, is saying, "Do what now?" in regards to abortion rights being rolled back in real time, the revocation of our civil rights, and she is questioning, "Do what now?" A party of invertebrates.
Did? We extended the child tax credit for the
Well,
first
I'm
year.
sorry, when I say do
Right,
what,
yeah.
do it now.
Yeah.
Dude, why does she keep going back to this child tax credit? Dude, that shit expired. That's done. Shut up. Yeah, it was good when it lasted, but then it doesn't last anymore. So shut up about it.
Act legislatively.
What's that to do with abortion rights?
Make abortion rights legal.
We feel the same way. Do it now. Congress needs to do it now.
And I guarantee she's going to go back to we need the votes. That is any response in turn. Anytime a question is asked pertaining to like, hey, can we? What are the Democrats going to do? And can we codify this into law and all that? And they're going to say, oh, we need the votes first. LOL, sorry. As they sip on their champagne back in their like fucking private jet.
In terms of permanently putting in place a clear indication that it is the law of the land that women have the ability and the right to make decisions about their reproductive care.
We already
and
know
the
that.
government does not have the right
We already know
to
this.
make those decisions for a woman.
Yes, we already know that.
Ways you can do it, obviously. One of the only way that is legislatively, procedurally possible is by doing away with the filibuster on this issue. A president.
Oh yeah, Chad Biden over here with the fucking. He said that we need to meaningfully address like the filibuster, or he said like we should like do something about it. But he like the language was like pretty like I don't know, pretty weak. But he did mention something regarding like we need to like work around the filibuster. I think he said.
Biden told my colleague Anderson Cooper he would be okay with eliminating the filibuster to pass voting rights and, quote, maybe more. Would you support eliminating the filibuster in order to pass federal legislation for abortion rights?
Now this is the easiest softball in the history of fucking softballs. This is like throwing this is like asking someone, "Hey, can you throw a rock into a pond?" Like this is on par with how easy that is. Can you inhale and exhale? You know, can you like this is easy peasy shit. The answer to this is obviously yes, because first off, Republicans are willing to subvert democracy if it means getting their way. And I mean, the filibuster is fundamentally anti-democratic, so yes, it should be overturned regardless of what we're trying to overturn it for. But especially with regards to ensuring people's civil rights, absolutely, we should abolish the filibuster. It should have never been there to begin with. Let's yeet it out of existence. You know. This is super, super, super easy, but let's see what she says.
Right now, given the current composition of the Senate, the votes aren't there.
But
And so that's what we.
And there it is. Yeah. Well, sometimes softballs are hardballs, you know what I mean? And by the way, she didn't ask how feasible is it to get rid of the filibuster. She asked, should we, as an opinion based, as in, do you think we should get rid of the filibuster, in your opinion? She's like, well, we don't have the votes. Okay, I didn't ask about that.
But
Can you imagine fumbling the ball that fucking hard? That is wild to me, you know?
Well, here's the thing. I understand why you're asking the question, but the reality of it is,
I understand you're asking the question, but like I can't literally answer it, you know, because I would like alienate my Republican colleagues.
we don't even.
But by the way, again, the filibuster is anti-democratic, and she's appealing to because the only reason why she wouldn't answer this question is to appeal to the Republicans who like the filibuster. So she is appealing to an anti-democratic politicians. So she wants to cater to them. They are willing to subvert democracy if it means getting their way. If anything, this is like the easiest fucking thing to like call out. Say, yes, we should get rid of the filibuster.
And get to really answer that in terms of whether it happens or not if we don't have the numbers in the Senate. And again, that's why I keep coming back to the importance of an election that is only 130 odd days away, because it really does matter. I sit as the vice president, therefore the president of the Senate. I was in the Senate for 4 years representing the state of California. And if you don't have the votes, you can't move anything. We've seen countless examples, sadly, of that. This Senate, in the current composition, would not pass voting rights legislation. I sat in the chair when the Women's Health Act was on the floor for a vote, and we didn't have the votes to get it passed on the issue of Roe, of reproductive health care. So the numbers are not there, and we can't de-emphasize the significance of that.
As the vice president, as the president of the Senate, do you have a position on, I know you don't have a vote on it, but do you have a position on whether the filibuster should be eliminated?
I think the president has spoken on that issue, and
he said and more, he kind of left the door open. Is this where he was leaving the door open to?
I think that he has been clear about where we stand on this issue of reproductive health and what the president and our administration have within our toolkit to do. And so far, that's what we've been pursuing.
You were a senator when now Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh testified about many issues, including obviously Roe and their confirmation hearings. Now Justice Gorsuch said it had been reaffirmed many times. Kavanaugh called it precedent on precedent. At that particular hearing, you were there. Some senators say that they intentionally misled the public and the Congress. What do you think?
I never believed them. I didn't believe them. That's why I voted against them.
Do you think that there's anything to be done now? I mean, they were under oath.
I think that, listen, it was clear to me when I was sitting in that chair as a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee that they were not, that they were very likely to do what they just did. That was my perspective, that was my opinion, and that's why I voted like I did.
Big picture, do you worry about two Americas now because of the patchwork of different states having different laws now that Roe v. Wade is no longer law of the land?
I don't believe we have two Americas. I
All right, then you're a dumb fuck.
believe that.
I'm sorry, but like the idea that there aren't like two Americas right now is insane to me, considering the fact that like we have many, there's so many people in this country who are obviously pro-life and the idea, and also pro-choice, but like it is very, very right now the environment is really partisan. So like the idea, like you can't just appeal to the like the unity thing here. It just seems really weird to like, I don't know much of that. I don't. It may also illustrate the fact that she just doesn't have a full understanding of the political climate right now.
When you look at an issue, for example, like abortion and Roe, the majority of Americans support the right of a woman to make decisions about her body. When you look at something like the issue of the need for reasonable gun safety laws, the majority of people, including one of the numbers I've seen, the majority of gun owners agree we should have reasonable gun safety laws. So I don't buy into the idea.
Okay, but if there's a majority, that implies there's a minority. Therefore, there would be two Americas. There's people who are pro-gun. There's people who are anti-gun. There's people who are pro-choice and pro-life. Yeah.
Idea that we have two Americas. What does concern me is that the rhetoric that you see among certain elected officials is actually not representative of where the people actually are. And we need to listen to where the people actually are. The vast majority of people, I think, have so much more in common than what separates them, and they want us to lead in terms of those who hold elected offices in a way that is reflective of their daily needs and their priorities. So, for example, supporting parents with a tax cut for childcare expenses, which we have done as an administration.
She keeps going back to this. The child tax credit. It's done. You can't keep bragging about it anymore. Wait, and plus the entire premise of this interview is on what we should do about abortion, not like what you have done in the past. What is the next steps?
Expanding the child tax credit, so that as we did in the first year, we brought down child poverty by almost half. Doing the work of saying we are going to focus on an issue like maternal mortality, because rural women, Black women, Native women are almost equally impacted in terms of the disparities of those outcomes. That's what people want.
Speaking of disparities and just overall anxiety, I want to ask you about the economy.
Yeah.
There is a lot of anxiety about the economy. People's wallets are really being hurt. Right now, gas prices, as you well know, they're still near about $5 a gallon. The president said he wanted a gas tax.
Oh yeah, and by the way, a major contributing factor to why Biden's approval rating is like all time like mega low is a lot of it is have to do with like gas prices and shit. Unfortunately, because a lot of people at the end of the day, they just look at what's immediately in their face, and gas prices, unfortunately, are one of those things. Plus inflation, actually. I mean, a lot of it also is out of his control, but that's a big reason why right now, at least, this approval rating is as low as it is.
Holiday, it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere in Congress. What else is in your toolbox? Is there anything else you can do to help bring down the cost of gas?
Well, first of all, let's just say that this is a very real issue, and we have to.
No one's saying it's a fake issue. What?
do something about it, and it's one of our highest priorities as an administration. So there is the piece that is about gas and bringing down the cost of gas, which in large part has exploded because of Putin's war in Ukraine. The president is in Europe right now, talking, as he has been, to bring our allies and partners together so we can have a common defense around what we believe to be democratic principles around sovereignty and territorial integrity. But there are other things we need to do. And so, for example, bringing down the cost of prescription drugs. We are fighting to say something like...
Notice how the original question was framed around gas prices, and now she is discussing like other shit tangentially related.
Should cost no more than $35 a month. We are fighting to say that we should have affordable childcare so that working families shouldn't pay more than 7% of their income in childcare.
But you've been fighting for that since
And we're
day
gonna
one.
keep-
Now, inflation is really high. Are you concerned about a recession? The administration said that they weren't that worried about inflation, and then that changed.
So that's actually a really good point from the interviewer here. She basically is saying like, hey, yeah, you guys have been saying since day one that you're going to bring down prices for like all this shit and like handle whatever, but it's still happening. So what's up? We'll see if she like actually answers it here, but if the pattern holds for the if the interview like before has been any indication of how this is going to go, then I assume she's not going to even address the question.
I think that there can be no higher priority than what we have been clear is our highest priority, which is bringing down the costs and the prices as much as we possibly can, and we will stay focused on that.
Again, this is really abstract. See, like throughout this entire interview has been basically just her identifying problems and then speaking abstractly as to what the solutions to those problems are. Like saying, "Oh, we're going to bring down the price of X, Y, or Z." It's like, okay, obviously we want that, but how? Like, what are the specific policy proposals that can help do that? But of course, she can't answer it. Yeah, I mean, it's just like a common theme with Democrats. They're just fucking stupid.
Just want to ask you quickly
Sure.
about January 6th.
Okay.
You are a prosecutor
Yeah.
by training and by lots of experience.
Mhm.
Based on the evidence presented so far in the January 6th hearings, would you bring criminal charges against the former president, Donald Trump?
As a former prosecutor,
Dude, by the way, this is like the easiest fucking slam dunk in the world. The question being, oh, should we charge Donald Trump with inciting insurrection on January 6th? Yeah, I think so. Also, all the people involved, it wasn't just him, but like, this is, like, yeah, obviously. It shouldn't even be a debatable question.
I never comment on another prosecutor's case.
I understand that. The former Vice President, Mike Pence, has your opinion of him changed?
Well, I think that he did his job that day, and I commend him for that because clearly,
Wait, what? Yeah, he did his job after, like, aiding and abetting the insurrection and only dipped out at the last minute because he saw that it wasn't actually going to work and the optics of which were going to be, like, devastating to his image. Yeah. I mean, like, keep in mind, like, all the Republicans would have been on board and in favor of the insurrection if it was, if it looked like it was going to work, if it looked like it was actually going to take place. The only reason why a lot of them, because initially they were in favor of it, but then they ended up being against it once they saw it wasn't actually going to, work. And then of course they deflected that the insurrectionists to like being Antifa or something. So yeah, I don't know. Do you want to give like Mike Pence a lollipop for like dipping out at the 11th hour after noticing like, hey, this is not gonna like the election is gonna not be overturned? I don't know. This is kind of weird. I really didn't think like Democrats would like be in like apologize for Mike Pence. It's really odd to me.
it was under extraordinary circumstances that he should not have had to face, and I commend him
Huh? Yeah, this interview's about to end. Oh, well, I have like 5 seconds anyway.
for having the courage to do his job.
Last question, I know we're out of time.
Sure.
Your friend, the Congressman Jim Clyburn said last week that if President Biden doesn't seek re-election.
All right, that's enough. Well, look, we're all fucked, okay? Yeah, Democrats are unable or unwilling to meaningfully challenge Republicans, so. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Oh boy. All right, well, I think that's it for today.
Down.
I won't be streaming next week, just as a reminder, and I'll be, but the week after that I will be, so. All right, you guys, everyone take